And again, we're just looking for trends. All right. So you can imagine in this lab, you do that, and then we're going to go ahead, go back to quick flight setup, select Lawi again, go to runway 8 because we were already at this airport. There we are. Go to our aircraft, weight and fuel, and we can go ahead and change the payload weight. I'm going to go ahead and page it just for sake of argument here. You would see that we would change it to 900. It would be, watch, it's barely going to want to take off practically. I'm going to pause it, turn off the brakes, put the power in, make sure I have my square on the screen. Also notice the plane is sitting there. Sometimes on some airplanes you can actually see it, the difference. All right, let me go ahead and pause this. Pull it back up. Okay, let's get everybody caught up here. Now we're going to try to take off again. In fact, the nose is pitched down. I'm trying not to. So what we would see, we're checking our time here, 7:53 time-wise. So it's just going to, what they're probably going to find or should find is that takeoff distance is really going to increase. As you can see, we're getting closer to the end of that runway, end of the runway. Uh-oh. Notice my airspeed's a lot greater, but I still haven't taken off, have I? And I may have put so much weight into this at over 900 pounds, it's not going to take off. I pulled back on the stick a little bit. We've gone right off the runway. And you can just point that out. We still can get our distances traveled, but you might just point out, hey, you're off the runway. You would never do that in real life. It wouldn't be safe. But let's go look at the data again. Settings, data input, output. Data C, again, because we're teaching here, these numbers are pretty far up. But let's go back. I mean, now we're at 6,000 feet we traveled, so a significant increase. For the folks teaching high school, I can share a lesson where we can ask the kids, why does the takeoff distance double, but the airspeed doesn't? And there's some really kind of interesting things you can talk to them about that. All right, once they've got that, they're going to go ahead and graph the takeoff distances. So they're going to get a chance to use those graphing skills. They're going to take the average, they're going to calculate the average takeoff distances at the different payloads. And you're going to, the investigative questions again, as the payload increases, does takeoff distance increase or decrease? It increases. Does longer takeoff distances indicate more or less payload? More payload. Does the airspeed go up or down as you increase the payload? To get it to take off, you have to increase the airspeed. Do you see why now? Larger airplanes require larger strips. So we get into that. Okay? Any questions about that so far? All right, let's see here. Okay, someone asked, hey, what are those 4 check boxes are? I'm glad you asked that question. That first check box here is cockpit. That's the view you see inside of X-Plane. That's this right here. That's the cockpit. All right? The next one here is graphical. And that's the data C stuff here. That's any of this graph stuff we've got going, which I've messed it up, so now we don't see it anymore. Disk saves it to disk. If you wanted to save it, you can actually save it in a spreadsheet format if you really wanted to get into collecting data. And then finally, you can send it over the internet. This is from the folks in industry using this program, needing to share data among themselves. They'll send it right over that way. Does this answer your question? Catherine was asking this. Yeah, And are those the same ones next to the frame rate, for example? Yes, it is. Yes, it is, Catherine. Exactly those same things. Okay? Now, once that, also too, make sure you understand, Fly To Learn is probably going to run a lot faster on your computer than what you're seeing because the webinar is slowing everything down. So if you're thinking, wow, it's dragging a little bit, it's not X-Plane, it's the going across the internet, me holding the webinar. All right? And there's things, so that's probably what's going on when you see it on your screen now for this webinar tonight. Okay? Now, we also get, in lesson 2, if you want, you can get into vectors and resultant. And one tip I want to give to you when you teach that, if you have a little model airplane that you can teach with this, is wonderful. Hang a weight on the nose of the airplane. When the plane is flying level, that weight will go straight down. When you point the nose down, the weight falls forward in the direction of the nose. When you go up, the weight falls back towards the direction of the tail. That's another reason that when you climb an airplane, you start losing airspeed. That's another reason for when you point the nose down, you go much faster in an airplane. One thing as you get into flying this, just from a flying standpoint, you gain altitude with throttle, not by pointing up the nose. The nose pointing up will not cause the plane to go up in a sustained manner. The next thing on this, so we still have some time for questions, so we're almost out of time, I really appreciate it, is we have an additional Fly Me to the Moon. You can actually go by and change the settings on this so you have the same gravity of the moon. And the kids read about at the end that if we would, there's now, they found them, the craters, they're finding ice at the bottom of them. Well, if you seal over the top of the crater, heat up the ice, you could create an atmosphere. If you create an atmosphere, the gravity's so low, the calculations work, people could fly by flapping wings. If you gave you fake wings, like something from like, this will date me, Gilligan's Island, when he had wings, or Icarus, I'm saying that probably wrong, you can do that. So that's kind of a neat little side note. We have just, so I'm stay on as long as you want. Do you have any questions right now? Any more questions about this? I've out of curiosity, how many people have started using this in their lab in any of their classes yet? I know several folks are starting to already, so I'm kind of really, we're excited as this goes on. We also have that event. Don't feel like your kids, wow, this is our first year, we want to compete in the event. The event is going to be very low-key this year. And we'd love to have your kids. We'd love to see what kind of airplane designs they come up with. It'll be wonderful. So please don't hesitate. We also design it in such a way that the teachers and volunteers, you don't have to spend half the year getting ready for this. I host the regional robotics competitions, and those things are just for getting like Odyssey of the Mind and things, which really can be a commitment on everybody's part. This is meant to be much more low-keyed. Does anybody else have any more questions? All right, I think I got one coming up here. All right, we'll get you set away. Also, too, there's a couple folks that may be waiting. We've formulated a new Fly To Learn disc. It's going to be using X-Plane, but what's really great about it is, and you won't see this in the normal X-Plane disc, but you'll start getting it on the Fly To Learn disc. And folks, if you don't have the Fly To Learn disc, we'll get you a copy so you can use it in your classroom, don't worry. But it allows you to do the event challenge. So if you've not gotten it quite yet, we're going to get it there for you, okay? What is the cost of the program? Someone asked that one. The cost is, got a couple ways. If you got a class load of kids, sorry about that. If you got a class load of kids, It's $400 a year for 20 computers. That keeps you current, all the updates, all the curriculums, everything. If you just a group of 5, it's $300 a year. If your funding is such, we'll negotiate funding. If you've got, sometimes people that write grants say, well, we don't want to commit to every year, so just get a price. We can talk to you about a perpetual license. But it's still all going to be very reasonable. If you want to buy it as an individual, it's a perpetual license. It includes webinars, everything, and that's $90. But it really works out for a class set of like $20 a computer. I hope that answers your question, Robert. Let me see if there's another question right here. Yeah, our total lessons are 10. Yeah, there's total lessons. There's 10 lessons. Next week, we're going to do another webinar, same time. We're going to go ahead and go into lessons 3 and 4, and we'll just go through all 10 lessons. And we plan to add lessons, more lessons that goes on, or supplements to lessons. We've got a video tube on how to make a small balsa wood airplane and some other resources so the kids have hands-on experience. I like, you can break it up. Do a couple lessons on the computer, let them build foam airplanes is one thing we can do. We also will have webinars on how to use Bridge Builder, which is a bridge building program put out by West Point. So we got a lot of neat things going. We really are interested in the STEM crisis in this country, and it really is. We've got to get more engineers. We've got to get more kids going tool and die. We need to do those things. And we also have, frankly, a challenge in the aviation world where, the average pilot, I think I read somewhere, is 57 years old. We need to get more young people excited about aviation. Someone asked earlier, how do you get girls involved with this? I encourage the design side. I also encourage having groups of girls just be girls there. We teach our classes girls only and boys only. They really enjoy that. And the girls tend to like the design side more. I hope that helps a little bit. I also think it helps to have female role models. Tonight we have Judy Rice with us. She's got a really exciting program that will send you more information about where it's Think Global, and they're flying around the world. And Judy's doing the flying. And I think it's good for girls to see that. These young ladies need role models. Brian Norwood just asked, does the license include all levels, K through 12? It does. We will give you the elementary, we'll give you the high school lessons, everything. And, the nice thing about the event, if you think about that, we're going to have the event. This is all virtual. Your kids can fly with other kids. You don't have to even leave the school. So that's really pretty cool, too. I hope that you found this helpful. I hope you'll come back next week. If you miss a week, don't worry. We're going to tape and record these and make them available for everybody. So unless someone's got another question, we'll go ahead and call it a night. And the folks from New Zealand couldn't make it on here, so I think I'll be training them a little bit later here tonight. So if you don't have any questions, we'll call it a night. And thank you very much for working with young people.